everyone. Welcome back to another beautiful day in Hawaii. It is breakfast time. I am having a nice, big, beautiful green smoothie. And then in addition to this smoothie, I am going to have a Brazil nut. Selenium. Today, to continue the anti-nutrient series, we will be talking about goitrogens. So goitrogens are any substance that interfere with thyroid activity, either by inhibiting the uptake of iodine by the thyroid or influencing levels of thyroid stimulating hormone in the body, or by interfering with the activity of thyroid peroxidase, which is an enzyme involved in the synthesis of thyroid hormones. My beautiful and delicious breakfast here happens to be quite rich in some of the better known foods that are high in goitrogens. Specifically here we have kale and flaxseed, but we will get into why I'm not super worried about that later on in this video. For now, let's talk about where we find goitrogens. Oh, just everywhere. There are goitrogens in several types of medications, including some heart medications, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, some antibiotics, as well as in lithium and benzodiazepines. There are also many types of goitrogens in environmental pollutants, like many pesticides and food processing byproducts. Bromides, dioxins, heavy metals, oxazolidines, perchlorates, and thiocyanate in cigarettes. Just when you thought it was okay to start smoking again. But of course I know you and I are here to talk about dietary goitrogens, so I won't disappoint. First off, certain flavonoids, which are subtypes of polyphenols, which I think we all know are non-essential plant nutrients that often have very potent anti-cancer and health protective benefits to the body. However, in addition to the mountains of evidence that indicate that most polyphenols, including flavonoids, are pretty darn amazing for the human body, there's also plenty of evidence to show that they can have anti-thyroid function effects. Some flavonoid compounds like quercetin are outright known to be goitrogenic, while others are not goitrogenic on their own, but when they get into our intestines and they're metabolized by our gut bacteria, those metabolites that are created are goitrogenic. In addition to flavonoids, there are compounds called isoflavones, which are types of phytoestrogens found in soy. And these isoflavone compounds are well known for their ability to depress the activity of thyroid peroxidase. Though interestingly, in most studies, that depression of TPO activity did not translate into changes in thyroid hormone levels. Moving on to the next class of goitrogens, we have thiocyanates, isothiocyanates, and cryogenic glycosides, which are thiocyanate precursors. These are all found in the cruciferae family of vegetables that include broccoli and kale and bok choy and cabbage, etc., as well as in cassava, maize, bamboo shoots, sweet potatoes, and lima beans. In addition to having direct goitrogenic effects, these compounds can also interact with amino groups within the body, and the chemical derivatives of those reactions can also exert antithyroid or goitrogenic effects. So according to some research, even though the thiocyanate content of certain foods is predictable, the anti-thyroid or goitrogenic effect of that food is not predictable. Reading sentences that say things like, oh, BT dubs, even though you just spent 34 hours of your life reading about this, no one can actually predict the amounts of which kinds of foods are actually going to destroy your thyroid, 'cause complicates. I start to get kind of frustrated because here's the thing. A lot of the research that's been done on goitrogens has been in vitro, in test tubes, and in rats. And in this research, we take isolated, concentrated goitrogenic extracts from foods like soybeans or cruciferous vegetables, and then we see what happens in the test tube or in the rat. And these studies say things like, well, X happened in the test tube, and it's associated with Y in rats. So X may cause Y to happen in the body, which, to be fair, is a hypothesis. It's part of the scientific process. But unfortunately, what happens next is called the internet, not science. And people read sentences like X may cause Y in the body, and they write an ever-increasing number of inflammatory blog posts about how soy is killing us all, or these top 5 vegetables are destroying your thyroid, which your mom reads, and then she deduces that because she ate 2 pieces of broccoli last week at the Chinese food buffet, it's the anti-thyroid effects of the goitrogens in the broccoli that are causing her to never be able to lose weight. And then before you know it, you have to go to the chiropractor 4 times a week because you spend way too much time in this position. So let's just take a step back and look at the studies on goitrogens and humans consuming actual food. Unsurprisingly, studies like these consistently find that people who eat goitrogen-rich actual food in non-insane quantities tend to be A-OK thyroid-wise, and that A-OK-ness increases the more whole plant foods we consume, even if those whole plant foods are rich in potentially goitrogenic compounds. So what can we do to prevent goitrogens from ruining our lives like all of those blog posts and YouTube videos say they're going to? First, let's keep in mind that genetic risk accounts for about 70% of all thyroid disease. So that means that only 20 to 30% of risk for developing thyroid disease comes from lifestyle factors like diet or exposure to other goitrogens. That said, some studies have found that vegans and vegetarians do have lower rates of hypo and hyperthyroidism, and other studies have found that people who eat lots of cruciferous veggies have protection from some forms of thyroid disease like thyroid cancer. So even though genetic risk is significant, there are ways that we can influence that risk through lifestyle. In my opinion, one of the most important things we can do is try to prevent the synergistic effect of multiple hormone disrupting factors coming together at once. I do this by avoiding goitrogenic environmental contaminants, by buying organic food whenever possible, by using a decent water filter. I love my Berkey filter. I do my best to avoid heavy metal contamination by being wise about where I source my spices and supplements. And I do my best to not breathe in cigarette smoke or jet fuel fumes. I also purposefully do my best to avoid the hormone disrupting and goitrogenic chemicals that bioaccumulate in the food chain. So persistent organic pollutants like dioxins and PCBs build up in the tissues of animals, specifically food animals like cows and fish, and those pollutants also end up in dairy products. If you're having issues with your thyroid, I would recommend talking to your doctor and seeing if any of the medications that they have you on could have goitrogenic effects. By all means, ask your doctor if those medications are absolutely necessary, or if there's any way to avoid them, or change medication, or address the issues that you're having with lifestyle changes instead. Also, if you take synthetic thyroid hormones, let your doctor know if you are eating more soy products than you usually do, as the isoflavones in the soy may affect the metabolism of synthetic thyroid hormones. Avoiding high doses of supplemental flavonoids might also be a good idea. I know that quercetin is a highly touted flavonoid that is widely sold in supplement form, and it's goitrogenic. And so I have said it before, and I will continue to say it, there is no way to megadose a specific nutrient, be it essential or non-essential, without some downstream, unintended, completely unforeseen health consequence. So please, save your money and stop throwing supplemental monkey wrenches into the spokes of your body. And once you've covered those bases, by all means, be smart about your diet. You need to make absolutely sure that you get enough iodine. Studies found over and over again that the goitrogenic effect of food was completely negated by sufficient dietary iodine availability. So to say that again, there is no negative effect from goitrogen-containing whole plant foods when there is sufficient iodine available to the body. The recommended intake for iodine is 150 micrograms per day. And before you do the human thing where you say, well, if 150 is good, then 11,500 micrograms per day must be better, let's stop and remember that more than 150 micrograms of iodine per day is also associated with increased rates of thyroid disease. So we need to Goldilocks our iodine intake. I take care of my iodine by adding a small pinch of kelp powder or half a teaspoon of to my food most days. In fact, you saw me put that little bit of kale powder in my smoothie this morning. You also saw me eat a Brazil nut, which is high in selenium, another very important mineral for thyroid function. So since I ate my Brazil nut and I'm getting some oats later today, my selenium needs are going to be totally taken care of. It's also important to make sure that you get enough vitamin B12. Speaking of which, and be mindful of your omega-3 to 6 ratio. Moderate amounts of omega-3s and omega-9 fatty acids are known to improve thyroid function, while excess amounts of omega-6 fatty acids and saturated fats are known to decrease thyroid function. Speaking of which, I've said it before, I'll say it again, low-calorie diets depress thyroid function. Let's stop depriving ourselves of the nutrients and the energy that we need to function. And studies in rats indicated that if protein intake was less than 10% of calories, thyroid function could suffer too. So very long story short, just nourish yourself, eat non-insane amounts of actual food, eat a wide variety of whole plant foods, do your best not to get hung up in really persistent dietary ruts, enjoy whole soy foods a few times a week if you like them, enjoy cooked and raw cruciferous vegetables as often as you like them, keeping in mind that collard greens, Brussels sprouts, and Russian kale are particularly high in goitrogenic compounds, while broccoli and other forms of kale tend to be much lower. For cruciferous veggies very high in goitrogens, steaming them or boiling them can reduce the goitrogen content by 60 to 90%. And finally, just keep in mind that many of the whole plant foods that are known to be higher in these potentially goitrogenic compounds are also rigorously studied and known to be some of the healthiest foods for humans, and they are known to have so many benefits for us. From cholesterol and blood sugar control to antioxidant protection to gut health improvement and cancer prevention. In fact, it is the exact same enzyme, myrosinase, that not only triggers the formation of goitrogenic compounds in cruciferous vegetables, but also the sulforaphane, which is one of the most potent anti-cancer and anti-carcinogenic compounds known to man. And so, to me, it makes no sense to limit or eliminate my intake of some of the healthiest, most cancer protective and disease protective foods on the planet simply because in the absence of iodine and in the presence of several other goitrogenic factors, these foods may have an influence on an enzyme that doesn't actually end up affecting my thyroid hormone levels anyway. So the take home, broccoli is not poison. If anyone tells you that broccoli is poison, stop listening and get yourself to a chiropractor immediately. Next, don't eat like a wackadoodle. Eat actual food in non-insane amounts. And third, hit your essential nutrient targets. That's not new, that's not different, that's not hard. That's something that we just do with a little bit of mindfulness and pre-planning. And finally, I just want to end by saying that I had hypothyroidism, and I was told to avoid these goitrogenic foods, and for years, even when I was on a whole plant food diet, I did avoid them. I never had soy. I really limited my intake of cruciferous vegetables. I never had millet. I avoided flax seeds. I even avoided sweet potatoes, and I will be perfectly honest with you, I didn't feel as good as I feel now. After taking other people's word for it for several years, I finally did the research research and learned about these goitrogenic foods, and I understood that as long as I was getting enough iodine and not too much, I would be fine, and they would have virtually no effect on my thyroid function. And so over the last several years, I have included plenty of soy foods and cruciferous vegetables, millet, flax seeds, sweet potatoes, lima beans. I've eaten so many of these goitrogenic foods, and I feel fine. I feel better than I felt before. I intimately know what thyroid issues feel like. I know that bone deep fatigue and the chill that you get with hypothyroidism. I know the depression and the sluggishness, and I know the heart palpitations and the chronic anxiety and nervousness that comes with hyperthyroid symptoms. And despite eating a huge amount of goitrogenic foods, I feel good. I feel like a normal, optimistic, functional, hardworking human being. And I'm so thankful that I finally let myself eat a full variety of whole plant foods because my health and my vitality feels better for it. Okay? So on that note, I am going to go hunt down some lunch. Lunchtime. I admit it, it's not even lunchtime yet, but I'm really looking forward to this. It was Levi's birthday last night, so I made him his birthday dinner, and I have some, oh, I almost dropped it, some leftover vegan sushi, and then I'm gonna have a little piece of the black bean brownies that I made for him. I just can't stop myself. I have chocolate in my teeth. We're gonna power through. And then I made this really yummy miso ramen style broth. I put the recipe up on my Instagram page. It's Levi's picture. Click on that, you'll find it. A little bit of tofu in that, and then I used gluten-free vermicelli noodles. And it was really good hot, but it was a little bit spicy because I put chili peppers in it. So I'm hoping that it's gonna be really refreshing cold and it won't blow my face off like it kinda did last night. Looks so good. Oh my God. Yeah, it's blowing my face off. But it's everything I thought it would be. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and have a little bit of an early lunch because I took all the sheets off the bed today and all the pillowcases, stripped everything down, put it in the washing machine, and the washing machine is broken. So I'm gonna go try to, I don't know, figure that out. If anyone knows where I could get a washing machine hooked up to a bicycle, I would be interested. Until then, I will just see you guys for dinner. Alright everyone, here is my big, beautiful dinner. I made some bread yesterday, so I sliced that up and put it onto a dry cast iron pan to toast, and it is so good toasted, you guys, I swear to God. And then I have some pumpkin, and just FYI, pumpkin with nutritional yeast is freaking amazing, especially when you smash it and put it on the toast. And then on top of the toast pumpkin nooch smash, I'm going to put some barbecued soybeans right here that have been sauteed with some onions and some yummy herbs and spices like cumin, oregano, coriander seed, and smoked paprika. And then I have a very simple, beautiful fresh green salad, which is taking up the bulk of my plate. It'll be delicious and fresh, and I'll probably just smush that all into the bread, and it's gonna be messy, but it's also gonna be really, really good. So I'm actually gonna pause before I eat this and go drink a bunch of water because I've just been sweating all day. I cannot stand it anymore. And then after I eat this, this will probably be everything that I ate today. And then I have this, which is a piece of kulolo, which is taro that's pounded with sugar and coconut milk. And somebody said that it was my piece, so I'm gonna eat this too, but I don't wanna eat it right now. Stop, no, you're gonna make me get gazelle legs. Stop it. Oh, that's my bony Renfro ass. All right, everyone, thank you so much for watching. I so appreciate it. If you learned something from this video, a thumbs up is always also appreciated, and feel free to leave questions and comments down below. I will get to those as I'm able, and as always, make better choices for yourself. No one will do it for you, and take really, really good care I will see you all very soon. Bye! We're starting to enter the uncontrollable sweating part of the day, so bear with me. Peel my braid off my neck. Oh.